Well, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon and welcome to the Campervan Campout Hub. It's great to have you with us. I'm Motorhome Matt from the Motorhome Matt podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome Highlands to Hammocks. This is Gemma and Campbell, who have actually been friends at school. They were very small children. Who was older at school? So Campbell was always too scared to speak to Gemma. How sweet. Until a fabled night in a nightclub when she was abandoned and he escorted her home. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a compact welcome to Highlands to Hammocks.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. It sounds a lot creepier when Matt says it like that, but I swear it was good intentions. So thank you all so much for coming. It's so lovely to see such a big audience on a nice sunny day, and so many familiar faces out there as well. For anyone that's not heard of us before, we're Gemma and Campbell, and we run the travel channel Highlands to Hammocks, and that's like a website, travel blog, YouTube channel, social channel, where we basically share all about our adventures and often misadventures. I would say more often than not misadventures, all over the world. And we're traveling in our motorhome, Ellie, where we've been living in our full time for the last 3 years. Quick show of hands before we get stuck in. Has anyone heard of the North Coast 500? Yeah, easy question. Good. Get those arms warmed up. Who here's planning a trip up to the North Coast 500? Excellent. Well, hopefully by the end of this presentation, we're going to have a full show of hands again, because that's our aim today, is to inspire everyone here to go and visit what is, in our opinion, the most beautiful place in the world. Slightly biased, we are Scottish, but we absolutely love it up there.
Okay, so a little bit about who we are. We are Gemma and Campbell. We've grown up camping, caravanning, and after we finished uni, I was studying nursing, Campbell chemical engineering. We did a little stint of work where we thought, let's save up some money and then go traveling. And that's exactly what we did, and we haven't looked back. 3 years ago now, after living in a very small Toyota Hiace van in Australia, which we decided for the UK travel that was not really going to suit the weather, we decided to buy a motorhome, and in this video here, that is Ellie. She is a 7.5 metre motorhome, eldest AutoQuest 155, and our little home on wheels. Now, during COVID times, I went back to nursing, and Campbell also came over to work with me in Guernsey over in the Channel Islands. And that was where we were still working on our blog, still working on YouTube and everything, but we were passing ships in the night doing shifts, and we'd actually only planned on going there for 3 months after we'd been living in Australia. And we ended up there for about 14 to 16 months. So we thought, this is not the life. We were just not seeing each other, not getting to spend time together. So we decided to take our blog seriously, and we actually started writing a book on the North Coast 500, which we thought, there was a lot of bad press at the North Coast 500 at that time. There was pictures of people dumping their waste in the lochs or in the bushes, and we believed that education was the way forward. Like, people weren't doing this on purpose to make a mess, they just didn't know where to dispose of it. So we thought, why not write something that we can share? We had a lot of experience of van lifestyle, so we thought, let's see how it goes. We can write a book, put it in the back of our van, post one every time someone orders it, just see how it goes. And it kind of took off and became our baby, basically. And that is Destination NC500, and since then we have also got a map that goes with it as well, and then we wrote a book later on for HarperCollins for where to eat and stay on the North Coast 500. So we have been up this part of Scotland more times than we can even count every season. We absolutely love it, and we're really excited to share with you today all of our favourite spots.
Yeah, so as well as the NC500 book, we then went on to write one on the Isle of Skye, because it's another one of our favourite parts of Scotland. We'll get on to talking about why it pairs so perfectly with the North Coast 500 later on. And then we also wrote one on the Wild Atlantic Way on the west coast of Ireland. And all of these books are aimed just to educate fellow van lifers and people that are outdoor enthusiasts about how they can visit these quite vulnerable parts of the world more sustainably and more responsibly. And it's that exact information we're going to be sharing with you today as well. So, overview about what we're going to be chatting to you today. So it's all about the North Coast 500. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, we're going to have answered all of these questions. And if you do have any other questions about points that we've missed out or any other curiosities you have, please wait until the end and we can do a quick Q&A as well. Matt's going to run around with a microphone. And we're also, I just want to mention, we're going to be doing a giveaway this weekend for anyone that buys one of our products. We're going to be doing a one-to-one consultation. We're giving away 2 positions for it, where you can win a chance for to have a one-to-one call with us to help you plan your trip in the best detail, because we've realized how helpful it is to actually just sit down with someone who's got a lot of experience and talk through your plans. Basically, we can advise you on the best places to visit and stuff. We'll share all the details about how you can enter that competition towards the end. So why are we talking about the North Coast 500? Well, it's Scotland's and possibly one of the world's most popular road trips. It's absolutely beautiful. We first drove it back in 2018 when we had just first kind of quit our jobs. We were working in London, saving up money to travel. In hindsight, it was a pretty ridiculous decision, moving to the world's most expensive city to try and save money on a graduate salary. But somehow we managed it, and then we traveled around the UK, Ireland, and Europe for the next 6 months, living in a tent. We actually spent more time in a tent than we did in 4 walls because of that graduate salary. But it was amazing when we first went up there, and we just fell in love with our own back garden, and it's when we kind of started to really discover our passion for our home country. We've driven the route since then many times, been in all seasons, including winter when we were caught in a storm right up in the north of Scotland and our van was getting shaken about all over the place. But it gave us a good experience about what it's actually like to travel in these kind of different seasons and what the difference between them all are, and also when the best time to visit is. And on the route itself, there's so much to see. Before we go on a road trip, we usually use Google Maps where we save all of the places that we're going to visit on it. This is just a snapshot of all of the different spots that we wanted to visit around the north of Scotland. A lot of them we've been to, some of them we still need to go to. There's wee green flags, we still want to go to there. And if you're interested, you can either scan there, it will give you a link to a little digital map, or that QR code's actually in the book as well, and it will give you access to this map. So it's really good if you're trying to navigate around Scotland. But that is just why we love the North Coast 500 so much. Every single time we go up there, we're always discovering new hidden gems, new local businesses that have just opened up, more delicious cakes. I think every single time we go up there, we're rolling ourselves home because there's just so much good food up there.
So a little snapshot about the North Coast 500. It's a 516-mile road trip that starts and ends in Inverness. You can do it whichever way you like, clockwise, anti-clockwise. We typically prefer to go anti-clockwise. So we start going up the east coast where it's a little bit flatter. There's some beautiful little towns, nice beaches. But as you start to go around the north coast and further into the west coast, that is where the scenery just gets so dramatic. And so we always kind of feel like it saves the best for last.
And then it also links perfectly into the Isle of Skye, because you just finish off down south of Applecross, go across the bridge onto the Isle of Skye, and then your mind is just blown because it is just everything. We always say, we're very descriptive, we always say everything is just so up. Like it's hard to believe just how dramatic the scenery is. Like the pictures do not do it justice.
Yeah.
And then why is the NC500 so popular? Well, like I said, it's got everything that you could possibly imagine, from the dramatic scenery, from like rugged coastline, cliff views, Munros, beaches, wildlife, onto the adventure sports that you can actually do in this dramatic landscape. It's got everything that you can imagine, whether you want to do bungee jumping or zip lining, or whether you just like a nice relaxing walk through the mountains. One of our favourite things to do is definitely either surfing. We first took up surfing again up in the North Sea. Again, a bit of a strange decision to do. You think you would go to Portugal to go and do surfing, but also sea kayaking, because you can get out and enjoy the wildlife. More often than not, you get dolphins swimming around you, inquisitive seals coming up to you and playing with your boat. And then it's also got a lot of culture and history around Scotland. It's from everything from the small towns and villages to the dramatic castles, both ancient ruins and restored castles. And then it's also a very unique culture and history. And then on to the best part. Who's tried haggis here? Anyone tried that? Fantastic. That's more than, we were doing this at the NEC and I think we had one hand going up, so that's good. When you go up to Scotland, you need to try haggis. Don't let it put you off about all the kind of tales about what it involves. It's more just, I guess, mince, venison, some oats, herbs and spices, and it's absolutely delicious. If you are put off by even the thought of that, you can try the vegetarian stuff, which we prefer. I think it's got a lot more flavour to it. But you've got that, you've also got whiskey, and then there's a range of different breweries and distilleries as well. all across the Highlands. We're going to list some of our favourite cafes to stop off at when you're actually driving around the route later on. But like I said, we're rolling ourselves home every single time. And in getting there, Inverness is usually the starting and the stop-off point for the route because it's a circle. Inverness is very easy to get to. It's got an airport, it's got a train station, it's got a very well-connected bus link, and it's got the main road, the A9, which takes you from Glasgow all the way up to there. So it's very easy to actually get to. It's just the start of the Highlands.
It's also a very easy place to hang around and eat more good food.
Yeah,
it's just
Inverness.
a lovely city.
Yeah, definitely. If you are in Inverness, we recommend McGregor's Bar. Lovely owner. Was chatted to him loads of time, but they also do like traditional kind of music sessions, and and they've got a fireplace. So it's a very cozy little place to hang out. Then on to some of our favourite sites. We've got Old Shawmore Beach here, which is right up in the northwest. This is just an example of the beaches that you can actually find up in the north of Scotland. And, you know, looking at that water, you would honestly think that it's somewhere more tropical because it is just so crystal clear. You soon remember that it's not somewhere tropical as soon as you actually go and dip your toe in it. But looking at it on a sunny day, it is absolutely beautiful. And then on the right here, you've got one of the many viewpoints up in Torridon. This is the Bealach viewpoint, which is on the way over to Lower Diabeg. And it's this dramatic little winding road that takes you up to this picnic bench with a view over the Torridon mountain range. Now, this is just an example of what Westeros looks like. It's nothing but dramatic rolling mountains all across that region.
Yeah, and down into Lower Diabeg, it is a tiny, tiny little village. I would say a population of like, I don't know, 10.
Yeah.
Very, very small. There's also really cute accommodation there. We stayed in little chalets. We had like chickens pecking on the window of our chalet in the morning, but it's a really lovely place. The roads to get there, in fact, the road to get to both of these places, and a lot of the West Coast in particular, are very winding and very narrow. But it is possible. We have a 7.5 metre van and we've done both of them, and we'll kind of go on to talk a little bit about the roads that we don't so much recommend in that size of van in a bit later, but beautiful spots.
Yeah, and then Handa Island is another little hidden gem that we've found. It's again on the western coast, but it's actually a wildlife sanctuary that you get a small kind of rib boat across to. It costs about £20 per person return, so you can go there and back. And then once you actually get there, if you can nail it with the good weather, it is a stunning circular walk all the way around the island where you go up to the cliffs up at the northern end of it, and then you can see puffins there if you go the right time of year. You can see gannets, you can see all types of different birds. And across the island is just sweeping kind of hills like this. One of the points actually, I think, is just down to the right, down there. There was a boat parked up in the little bay where someone had obviously come in and just sheltered there. And again, you would think that it was in the Maldives or something. It was just crystal clear water.
And both times we've been there, actually, we've had really hot weather.
Yeah.
Which is quite unusual for Scotland, but it was actually really, really hot, beautiful place to walk around, take a picnic. There's nothing there apart from a few volunteers that work there for the local wildlife sanctuary. And there's like nowhere to buy food or anything like that. You can't stay overnight. You can just go over for the day and take a little picnic with you. It's lovely, sit and watch the birds.
Yeah, and Balnakeil Beach is another one right up in the northwest of Scotland. It's one of our favourites again because it always reminds us that despite all the hearsay and the rumours about the North Coast 500 becoming very over-touristy and over-busy, we took this picture right at the beginning of June. During the Scottish school holidays, I think they'd just kicked off, and it was blue sky sunshine for about 2 weeks. This was actually when we hiked out to the Caervig Bothy. We visited here as well. We've got a little video clip of that for later on. But as you can see, we had the entire beach to ourselves. There was no one there, and it's just an example of Scotland has so many beaches, so many beautiful points. If you can just get off the beaten track a little bit, venture away from the main road, it's very easy to find yourself in the wilderness by yourself.
Yeah, there's a great, I'm talking about food again, but there is a great place called Cocoa Mountain that is not far from Balnakeil Beach, and we always go and get one of their hot chocolates and take it down to the beach. They are incredible.
It's literally just liquid chocolate in a cup, and then you can get little tasters and stuff to go with it. So it's a perfect, if it's a cold day but a beautiful sunny day, a hot chocolate by the beach is the best way to spend that.
And there's one over in Dornoch on the east coast as well. So like sometimes if we're heading up and doing the whole route again, we'll maybe stop off in Dornoch, or maybe
you
we'll
got
wait
to do it twice.
But we recommend doing it twice. They're really good.
Yeah, and little video clip of our hike out to the Caervig Bothy, one of my favourite places in Scotland. Oh wow, and the beach is just coming into view. That water, oh my god. That right there is going to be our home for the next 2 nights. Wow. How do I move in here? How do I sign that rental agreement? I'll come here tomorrow. Honestly, that is just the best view I've ever seen in my life. It was time to heat up with a quick cup of tea, enjoying the sunshine and the beautiful view from our home, before we went on our final adventure of the day. I honestly cannot believe how white and how soft this sand is. That is just... It gives the Maldives a run for its money. That's amazing. Go, 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 go! Oh, run! Ah! I've got them on, my only dry socks. No! Come on, run across, it's not that deep. So no, before that. Go, 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 yay! We were basically told that there's another beach just over there. Yeah, we just need to climb up over these rocks instead, I think. Alright, I think we've come to the wrong side. That looks like it's just over there. But look where we are now. So beautiful, especially along the cliff there. There's like all these kind of wild lavender flowers. Really reminds me of Guernsey.
Yeah.
Like the cliffs.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh,
what a spot.
Maybe we'll see puffins as well. There was loads of little notes written in the Bothy book about people seeing puffins.
What are you doing down there? I was literally just sitting on the zoom camera to try and see if I could see any puffins on the rock, and I turned around and Jem was miles away, down exploring this arch that she spotted down on the beach. Ah, hello.
Hello.
What have you spotted?
Arch. But there's like so much seaweed in there that it literally looks like the devil's snare. But I think we should be able to get through it. Come in.
As long as that water doesn't make it up to there, then we should be fine. Oh God. You remember what happens when we go into caves?
Oh, I don't want to go first. I never thought about that.
Do I want to go first? Hello? Please no flap. No flap. Please. Wow. That is so cool. You can just get a much better perspective of that sea column. That is cool. Worth the hike. As the sun set over our own little slice of paradise, it quickly became apparent that we were going to be the only 2 people spending the night in the Keerveig Bothy. All alone, surrounded by breathtaking beauty, we felt like little kids again, exploring the rock pools and playing in the sand. The only 2 people to exist in the entire world. This place was truly magical, and we wished that the night would never end. So the sun's just set. We've just come outside to do some teeth brushing, and we've got deer. Come down off the hill, right from our bedroom window, we can actually see them. This place is honestly just magical, man. Magical. What an end to the night, and what a magical place. I love it.
Yeah, so that's just an example of how remote you can feel in Scotland. Like we hiked about 12.5 kilometres, I think, to get out there. You can actually get a bus. There's a small, from that beach we showed you before, Ballinakeel Beach, just round the corner from that, there's a little tiny boat that you can get.
I think it's about £20 per person for that, and then £10 per person for a return bus journey if you don't want to do the 8-kilometre hike out to the Bothy.
Yeah, but we preferred to do the hike because it was a very, very bumpy road, and sitting in a bus for however long it would take to get there, possibly about 2 hours, we thought, nah, let's just hike it. And we got out to the Keerveig Bothy. We were the only 2 people there on that night. Bothies are kind of free shelters out in Scotland, and we're very lucky to spend it there ourselves with that view.
I know. The next night we actually shared it with about 5 or 6 different people, so we didn't have it to ourselves every night. But in the same way, it was actually quite nice as well, because it meant we got to meet other people that were kind of out there exploring this region and get to exchange stories with them and stuff. But if you're heading up to the north of Scotland, I would definitely recommend trying to go and check that out, because it was just incredible out there.
It is a MOD training zone, so you just have to kind of keep an eye on the website for like when it's closed off. But majority of the time of the year, I think it's open. Yeah.
But some of our other favourite places up on the North Coast 500, in terms of castles, like I said, you've got 2 different types of castle. You've got the castle ruins, and you've got the restored castle. One of our favourites is Castle Sinclair Gurnago. It sits on the northeast of Scotland, just outside Wick, just not kind of beside Wick, and it's a castle ruin. It's one of these ones that are dramatic, sits perched right out on the edge of a cliff. And when you go and visit it, because it's a ruin, it gives you a little bit more room for imagination, where you can go in and just imagine what it used to be like to live on the edge of the world, basically. Very, dramatic music to go with my speech, so that's fantastic. I don't know why that's playing. It's nice, I like this song anyway. There we go. So yes, right out on the edge of a cliff. Got a wee tear in my eye from that. And it's one of our favourites just because of how much it transports us back through time. On the other edge of the scale, you've got Dunrobin Castle, which is that kind of fairy tale looking castle on the east coast. It's not that far north of it. It's in south of Sutherland, so it's just north of kind of Dornoch, yeah, it's just north of Dornoch. And it's the one that's got the massive, big, grand gardens, and you can go inside it for a fee and explore all the bedrooms and stuff. It's completely restored, so it's got all the original artifacts and stuff like that in it. So no matter what your flavour for castles are, you can find them up on the north coast.
And Dunnet Head is the most northerly point of mainland Scotland. It sits just past Dunnet Beach, kind of not far from there, and it is really beautiful. I mean, out there on a clear day, you can see all the way across to Orkney. Puffins are often up there. People have seen whales off the coast, so it's a really great spot. Winding road to get there, and I think we actually ended up there one day on the day of a wedding. Beautiful scenery for a wedding, but my goodness, the parking was chaotic. And during summer, it might be quite busy. It's not a massive car park, but there's still a decent amount of room, so it's worth a visit. And there's a Casby Stacks as well. They are just beside John O'Groats, and it's about, I think you can kind of see them from the road, but if you really want to get a good view of them, I'd say it's about a 10-minute walk through some fields, and you'll get a lovely picturesque view of them sitting out at sea.
And then on to beaches themselves. Our favourites are Sandwood Bay, which is right up in the northwest of Scotland. It's actually a 10-kilometre hike to get out to the beach. We've spent a night in a tent out there, and again, because it's so far off the beaten track, most of the time you will be the only person there. It's every now and again you pass another hiker on their way out to it, but because it's a 10-kilometre hike, you probably will get it to yourself. A funny story about that beach is my parents were up there visiting, and when they were walking to the beach, there was actually someone coming back with a surfboard that they'd carried 10 kilometres out to the beach to go and do some surfing out there. That's dedication, if you ask me, to the surfing. And then Achmelvik is one of the most famous beaches, I think, on the north coast, just because of how beautiful it is. Again, it's a crystal clear water, white sand beach that's got a car park right next to it, so it's a lot more accessible if you are wanting to explore these beaches.
There's also a campsite right beside it as well. There's some beautiful beachside campsites, and Achmelvik is one of those. Yeah,
and then Keirvaig, which is that one on the right. Again, just absolutely stunning. Then waterfalls. In case you didn't know, Scotland actually rains a lot, so that means that there's a good waterfalls up in the north. Some of our favourites are Rogie Falls, which is down in the southeast of the North Coast 500.
And that one's actually part of the Forestry Commission, which sometimes they do the stay of the night forestry scheme. And you can spend the night in that car park, and the Rogie Falls is actually often quite on that, so you can spend the night there.
And that region's really good as well if you visit at the start of summer, I believe it is, if you want to see the leaping salmon. You can see them jumping up the rivers around that part as they go upstream to mate and nest. Then you've got Wailing Widow Falls, which is a dramatic one. It's got a loch up the top. In the background there's a rolling mountain, and then you've got this waterfall that tumbles off the edge of a cliff from the loch into this little gully. You can either view it from the top, where you can see the loch and the waterfall, or you can view it from the bottom, and you just get this waft of waterfall spray coming off of it, just as the amount of power coming off it. And then one of our favourites is a hidden little one as we on the way up to hiking up to Ben Damf. It's again this little kind of one that goes down into a gully, very much reminded us of Bali. I don't actually think it's got a name, it's that hidden, and there's that many waterfalls, it's not that special. But if you are hiking up to Ben Damf, it's just down on the left. And then on to the good bit.
Yes. So Cocoa Mountain we mentioned before, there's one in Dornoch and one by Balnakeil Beach as well. Annie's Wee Bakery, so these little guys here on the left, that is some of the amazing creations that Annie makes in our wee bakery shop, and she is located not far from John O'Groats on the east coast. Her cakes are incredible, and they're actually really affordable too. I think you ordered some tiffin. It was honestly like a block of cement. It
was the size of a brick. I think it should have come with a disclaimer about how much sugar was going to be in it, because you could have built a house with it.
It was incredible. I think it took you possibly about a week to eat it. But that cost £3. It was very, very affordable. good cakes there.
And the thing I love about Annie's Wee Bakery is Annie, we met her in person because she's just started up this small business, but it's another perfect example of how good the North Coast 500's been to people in this area, because before she was doing more events catering, she told us she just didn't really have a passion for that. You know, she would rather meet the customers, do more kind of tailored, creative productions. As you can see, she's very creative and very talented. But because of the North Coast 500, it actually gave her that tourism to be able to open up her own little shop, and her business is now thriving.
Yeah.
Then on to another one of our favourites. This one's a bit more of a little hidden gem. It's a very unassuming bakery as you're heading through the town of Gairloch, that's right. It's a small little bakery. They do some of the best tray bakes that you can buy, and they also do the best vegetarian haggis if you want to get it in a roll, and it's so cheap because it's just this little basic kind of cafe bakery part.
Local bakery.
And then Melvick Hotel is one of our favourites as well because they do wood-fired pizzas. If you're staying there or if you're just swinging through and want to get some dinner, they do amazing sourdough pizzas.
Yeah, they're really good. A couple of good places to stay. Ness Lodge, that is in Inverness, a really beautiful couple that own this massive big lodge.
That's the one in the bottom left there.
Yes, and she has nailed it with everything.
Yeah.
She's got everything that you could think of. She's got it. It's all sorted. And it's absolutely beautiful place to stay. Black Isle Pods and Chalet, that's on the Black Isle on the east coast, just after Inverness. Again, another lovely place. NC500 Pods, there's one in Brora and also one over by Achmelvik Beach beside the campsite. This is actually the one in Brora. It's got a little sauna, so again, a lovely place to go and stay. Ferroch, that is another lovely cottage. So it's for maybe if you're going with like a larger group and you want somewhere to stay, it's really nice. And that is in Torridon.
Yeah.
Fionncroft, that is a small little shepherd's hut. Old schoolhouse in Strathy, that looks up over the beach. Sango Sands campsite is a really, really beautiful campsite in Clacktall as well. Now, both of these are beachside, beach view campsites. Will sell out really, really quickly in the summer. But Sango Sands, I'm not so sure about Clacktall, but Sango Sands do have a window, I guess, for people that arrive on the day, and there's like a very limited number of places that you possibly won't get like a beachfront view or cliffside view, but you'll still maybe be lucky enough to get a spot. And we actually managed to in June last year.
Yeah, just last minute they've got a certain number of like kind of drive up places, but it's a good point. If you are wanting to stay in a campsite, it's worth looking to book in advance because they do tend to book up quite quickly, especially in the peak season.
Yeah.
Then Well Camping on NC500, which is a good segue because it's an alternative to campsites. There's a lot of kind of misinformation about what the Outdoor Access Code and Well Camping refers to. The Scottish Outdoor Access Code is a very important piece of advice and I guess guidelines for people that are wanting to enjoy the great outdoors. One of the best things about Scotland is just how vast and how remote and how rugged it is. And the Scottish Outdoor Access Code is there to try and protect that for the next generation. And it's all built around the premise of leave no trace and respect the locals. It more refers to private land, which means that if you're on a non-motorised vehicle, you can go into private land, you can pitch up a tent, you can hike. There's an access right where you can get access across lands. I think as long as it doesn't contain crop or livestock, then you can basically just access it when you want to. And when you get up to Scotland, you can see why, because it is just so vast. There's no reason why you wouldn't be allowed to do that. Now, a lot of people confuse this with motorhomes because it says non-motorised transport. We usually, when we visit places, we do tend to park up off of campsites and off of airs, just because we're full-time in our van and it wouldn't be financially possible to constantly use campsites. However, that's allowed by it's more to do with the highway codes. It says if you are tired, it's perfectly fine to pull over where it is safe to do so and rest. It just means that you can't take your awning out, your deck chairs, have a little barbecue at the side of the roads. You know, it's be more respectful. If you want to have a big setup like we're doing here, then a campsite's your best place to do that because you can relax a little bit more and you don't need to worry about being moved on. And as I said, leave no trace is the key part. But these are some examples. That was Sandwood Bay on the left. That was where we hiked out to in October. We had a really good weather window, which quickly turned into a storm, and we ended up having to hike back to our van at 3 a.m. because I was just getting punched in the face by the side of the tent because sleeping in sand in wind isn't a good idea. And then on Dornoch Beach, that was actually just towards the end of summer. I think it was September time.
Yeah.
It was September, and the stars were that good. That was a photo that I took with my camera just over the beach. So if you're looking to do stargazing, then I'd say later on in August into September is the best time to do that because the nights are getting dark enough for that. But it's just the beauty that you can expect to find if you are brave enough to go into a little bit of wild camping.
Just while you're talking about the stars, I'll mention quickly about the Northern Lights because it's something that we get asked about a lot as well. During the summer, you're really quite unlikely that you will see anything because it's so bright. Even we actually one night last year got hounded by midges throughout the night, and I think it was about 2 a.m. we woke up, there was just midges everywhere coming in through our vents. We were like parked up on top of a nest, I think.
Yeah.
And even at 2 a.m., it's still bright outside. So yeah, you won't see anything up in the summer, but in winter, it's a great place. This year is actually going to be a really good year for the solar, for the Northern Lights. Potentially the last good year for a while.
It's the end of a solar cycle. It's the kind of the peak of a solar cycle, so it's really good this year.
So yeah, winter months are definitely better for that.
And then onto the sustainability. One of my favourite parts, again, is just, like I said, the local businesses that you can find up there. And how much the NC500 has helped these local businesses. We've got two friends, Finn and Iona, who own a surf school up on the north coast of Scotland called the North Coast Water Sports. They started that up. They were doing kind of semi-professional surfing. Like Finn was a big wave surfer. He's done a few competitions and he was going for professional surfing. But he didn't really have that kind of opportunity, I guess, in these remote parts. He would need to move away from home if he wanted to continue to chase that passion. Thanks to North Coast 500, they were able to open up this very, very successful surf school. It's actually multi-award winning now, and have been given grants to even start doing their own wildlife spotting. So you can take a riverboat out along the coastline on the North Coast and go and see all the wildlife and basically get a tour from them. So these local businesses depend on the custom of this tourism, and it's so important when you go up there to just enjoy chatting to these people and enjoy basically what they have to show you about their home country.
Yeah, they do paddleboarding as well if you're not fancying the surfing, and they also do little surf retreats if you want to learn how to surf.
Yeah, and then again, the rest of it is fairly self-explanatory. It's just all about leaving no trace and respecting the place. Driving carefully is also another good point because as you go further north, especially up in the northwest of Scotland, it's a lot of single-track roads. Now, people do ask us, like, can we bring a motorhome on these roads? I would definitely say yes. There's a lot of passing places as you go around. It's very well equipped for large vehicles, and that's because obviously these small communities need to get deliveries in lorries. What I would say is before you go up, though, it's just very important to make sure that you're comfortable reversing a big motorhome or even a caravan. If you are towing it, you might need to reverse it up to about 50 metres. So just practice that, and then if you can do that, if you can stay calm, at the end of the day, no one's in a hurry. Like, just take your time and make sure you do it safely, and you'll be fine.
And the two roads that we were going to mention as well that we don't really advise to drive in a large van are the quick road up the Ballyconnaba. So if you've seen that really dramatic road that kind of winds down through the mountains and over the water, that road is very, very steep with hairpin bends and can be really, really busy. So it's not recommended that you go up that in a large vehicle. But we always go around the long way and then come up the Ballyconnaba from the back. And it's actually a really beautiful drive around there as well. We often see Highland cows just like chilling out on the road. It's just a beautiful drive around the coast, and then you can still get up to the top and see the view of the Ballyconnaba instead of like driving up with it behind you.
Yeah, and the other one is the access to Achmelvik Beach. As I said, Achmelvik has a campsite, but the northern route around that, we wouldn't suggest doing that. Instead, what you can do is you go down to, what's the wee town? Oh, it's escaped me. It's just down to the south. There's a big town. It's a two-way road that takes you to there. And then from there, there's a shorter single-track road that you can use to get to Achmelvik. Lochinver, the town of Lochinver. So go to there and then head north from there. But some other tips that we would have for going around, again, very simple. Just plan your route. Make sure you get as much out of it as you can because it's just such a beautiful place. You don't want to be missing out on anything. And then we would also recommend bringing proper clothing because even in the height of summer, it can sometimes be a little bit blustery and a little bit cold. Like the weather can change in Scotland like that. As Billy Connolly said, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So make sure you pack accordingly. And then on to some FAQs. We would recommend, people always ask us, what would you recommend? We would recommend for time at least 2 weeks. But if you don't have 2 weeks, you can certainly do parts of the route in less than that. We would always recommend the West Coast. If you only have a week, you can just head up towards Let's escape me again, Loch Inver, I guess, or Ullapool, and then explore south from there, and then back across to Inverness, and that's a really good way to explore it. And then each of the seasons has their own benefits. I would say summer is obviously the best for weather, but it's also the busiest, and you do get midges. Spring and autumn are our favourite times to visit. I would say April, May is our definite favourite time to visit, because usually the weather's better than this, and it's also quite quiet, and businesses are still just starting to open. And then, yeah, that's us. So what I was chatting about earlier on is if you want to get a little bit more of our, I guess, authority and our advice when you're planning your own North Coast 500 route, we're going to be doing a giveaway today where you can win a one-to-one call with us. All you need to do is buy anything from our shop. We've got a couple of new products out, such as the map, and we've just released an adventure logbook where you can keep a note of all your different activities, help you plan your trip, and it's also got maintenance schedules and stuff like that in it as well. So it's the perfect thing if you do own a motorhome or a van. And then what this one-to-one call will do is it means that you can pick our brains for an hour about anything to do with your trip, and we'll help you plan it as best as we can. But that's all from us today, so thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about Scotland, and if you do have any questions, please let us know.